If you're returning from deployment or other time away from family and friends, or if you're undergoing a significant change in your life, such as retiring, moving, or changing jobs, you may not feel as if you're the same person you once were, or you may feel that those close to you have changed. Your family and friends may notice you have changed as well. Communication can be hard during the best of times, even with those you are closest to. This episode features the stories of 3 veterans who found ways to open those lines of communication with their family. Through the love and support they received, they were able to reach out and seek help.
My name is Marcus. I'm in the Marine Corps, or was in the Marine Corps, and I served both in Iraq and Afghanistan.
My name is Ed. I served in the Army, 82nd Airborne, and this was in the years 1985 to 1988.
My name is Jennifer, and I was in the Navy as a Seabee. I served from 2004 to 2015.
Ed and his daughter had completely lost touch. Ed was a paratrooper in the U.S. Army, but when his older sister unexpectedly passed away, he faced depression and substance use issues. He was unable to re-enlist, and he bounced into and out of relationships.
I was infantry in the military. My job was jumping on airplanes and walking constantly. When I was in there, I had a couple of tragedies happen to my family. My big sister passed away. Something happened. I just wasn't myself, and I messed around and indulged in some things that wasn't good being a soldier. So they told me I couldn't re-enlist. So I got out. I went home. My depression kind of got the best of me.
For Ed's daughter, Jasmine, her dad's mental health challenges meant that he wasn't in her life as consistently as she would have liked.
Every weekend, me and my sister would be outside waiting on Dad. Like, when his dad come in, sometimes he came, sometimes he didn't. We pretty much just got used to it for a while. Looked up to our dad, even though he was barely there. We still look forward to see him every weekend. Every time he comes, he drop us off, we cry for like 2 days. And I didn't really know about his drug addiction.
Marcus was so drawn to the military that he joined the Marines fresh out of high school when he was just 17 years old. Marcus served for 8 years, including 3 deployments to Iraq, re-enlistment, and service in Korea. But it was his last deployment to Afghanistan that changed his life immeasurably.
On October 9th in 2010, I stepped on a 25-pound pressure-plated IED. And that resulted in the loss of my left leg above the knee. My right leg sustained a lot of muscle trauma where, a lot of it was taken out. Some of it was preserved. I got to keep my right leg. I have, scars all over my body just from the shrapnel and stuff. That was catastrophic, to say the least.
In addition to learning to live with physical differences in his body, Marcus also recognized that he was experiencing depression and post-traumatic stress from the incident as well.
There was a level of depression from when I initially got injured. And my thought process with depression was that it was because people just weren't strong enough to handle, trauma. And then I went through depression and I could not help what my body was doing. When I went to the mental health care professionals and I said, hey, this is what my daily lifestyle is looking like right now. And I need you to sort of help me figure out what I need to do to get out of this.
Jennifer enlisted in the Navy to find new opportunities. She grew up below the poverty line and was afraid of further burdening her family. She also felt strongly about giving back to her country.
I didn't really have too many options. My dad would have worked like 6 jobs just to send me to college, but I didn't want to do that to him. So I wanted to do something to give back too. But I think the real moment that set it into motion was when I watched the Twin Towers fall. I felt I had to do something more than just take from a country that gave me an opportunity to do more.
Despite her eagerness to serve, a traumatic experience early on would alter the trajectory of her life.
So I joined the Navy and I wanted to give back. But when I joined and I went to A school, I ended up getting raped. And I never dealt with it because I didn't think anybody was going to want to hear my side of the story or they wouldn't believe me. So I just kind of held it inside and I didn't talk about it for like 10 years. It definitely affected me and gave me like severe anger issues and resentment towards men, which was really bad because my field was mostly dominated by men.
As Jasmine grew older, Ed gradually disappeared from her life. During those years, Ed continued to have difficulties with misusing drugs and alcohol. He ended up homeless, living behind a convenience store. One day, a man approached and asked if he was a veteran. He'd noticed Ed's cut-up BDU or battle dress uniform shorts. The man took him to a transitional housing facility where Ed got connected with mental health providers and substance use counselors. He eventually went back to school, rejoined the workforce, and called his children.
He called me out of the blue one day. I was actually shocked to get a call from him. And he pretty much just apologized. He said it was the drugs and he just apologized. That's all I wanted was an apology. And so after the apology, we began to talk every day. And then I just decided to come out here with him to Arizona.
And they let me back in their life. I asked them for their forgiveness and what I can do to make this right. And it was simple. They said, just don't leave us. Stay a part of our life. We forgive you.
Marcus tried his best to maintain a sense of normalcy for his wife and children, but he soon realized that they were also being impacted by his mental health challenges.
They understood quite a bit. They understood when I was stressed out. They understood what I was doing when I was drinking.
A conversation with his wife convinced him that he needed to seek help.
She was like, there's a side of this that needs to stop or slow down in a bit so you could pay attention to fulfilling the needs of being a dad, the needs of being a husband. So there was a little bit of struggle there, but I went to the resources that were there and available and said I had an issue. And I wasn't as direct as I had hoped to be. I sort of just wandered into substance abuse counselor's office and said like, hey, do you guys have a pamphlet on how to get my drinking under control? The guy had been doing this for 20 years. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna dig deeper because nobody just wanders in here and asks for a pamphlet. He got to know a little bit about me and some of my history and the things that I've endured as a Marine and just as a person in general. So he suggested a lot of really great programs and things that I wasn't necessarily accepting to, but I knew that if there was going to be any chance at keeping my family together, not having this history that we had to, sort of try to forget, that's what I wanted. I wanted to become better than I was before. Being Native American, there was sort of like this taboo mindset that Native Americans couldn't handle alcohol. And I tried to not really think about that when I went through, my recovery. There was a lot of people who, probably joked with me about it, like, oh, just Shirley's Native American, he can't handle drinking. But I think there were a lot of things that I wasn't being taught how to deal with internally about my experiences in the Marine Corps and a lot of the deployments that I had done. And drinking sort of was just like an outlet for me that became too much of an outlet.
For a long time, Jennifer struggled to control her anger. She tried to shrug it off, but an overreaction to her daughter one day helped her recognize that she needed to seek help.
I snapped one day and I almost hit my daughter. Just because she was saying mom. She just mom, 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 like kids do. And I snapped. It was nothing. What'd I snap over? So I called my husband crying, like, hey, can you come home? I need to go to mental health. And then that's when I started going to mental health. That's when I started getting help and understanding where the anger was coming from and that I can control it and eventually be free from it.
Reconnecting with his family helped Ed realize that withdrawing from that support system was a mistake.
Yeah, I like to tell people that we're not the only ones that's suffering. My main thing was that I'm not hurting no one else. It's only about me. Why don't you guys leave me alone? And that was the way I looked at it, but that wasn't true. So if you're going through any type of issues, realize that whatever you're doing, there are people that loves you, and your actions affect them, whether it be kids, family members, and everything like that. They love you and they want the best for you. And as long as you're withdrawing from them, your life is not going to get better.
We've overcome a lot. He's my best friend now.
Marcus says he continues to progress in his recovery. From all of his experiences, good and bad, Marcus has learned how to improve his home life, work life, and relationships with his family and friends. Looking back, Marcus attributes much of his healing to the support of his wife.
My wife has been like the forefront runner in all of this because she's a very intuitive person. She's really been there to give me a different perspective because she wants me to be better. Like I couldn't explain that in any other way. That was basically like her love for me, is that she wanted me to be better at everything that I did.
Jennifer sought help from a therapist who recommended that she participate in group therapy. Sharing with others helped her recognize that she wasn't alone. It's made a tremendous difference in her life.
I'm happy. Now that I have help, I'm happy. I don't have to do it alone. I don't have to struggle alone. If I'm sad, I have tools to either help myself get happy or to allow myself to cry. And that's a really important part right there, is having those tools to compartmentalize, but also to release. And I didn't have that before. I was stacking it all away and I wouldn't release it until it exploded, and then I couldn't control it. And now I can control the release and I can control how I put it away. So it's very empowering.
Jennifer has also seen her relationship with her daughter improve. She tries to share the tools she has learned in therapy with her family.
My relationship with my daughter it was good before, even though I snapped on her that one time, and it wasn't even her fault. That was all me. But now it's just, that's my best friend. She is so amazing and so wonderful. And we've had conversations about mental health, and she knows that I have depression. And then I've cried sometimes in front of her, and she understands it and she knows it's not her fault. And then I can put it away and we could talk about it, and she's okay with it and I'm okay with it. And there's not that tension in the house or that secretive, don't talk about it because nobody's supposed to know. Instead, it's really out there and it's open. My therapy actually helped everybody in the house because now I get to share my experiences and my tools, and we just kind of share our experiences. So now we can open up and be a much happier and more honest family. You have to find a reason to be brave. So find your reason. Mine was my kid. I couldn't be brave enough by myself.
Relationships with family can have a major impact on your everyday life. The love, support, and friendship of people who care about you may make the good times even better and can help you get through the bad times. As we heard today, strengthening and relying on family bonds can be an effective tool to help with challenging situations. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Real Veterans, Real Stories, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Make the Connection campaign. Visit MakeTheConnection.net, an online resource designed to connect veterans, their family members and friends, and other supporters with information, resources, and solutions to issues affecting their lives.